As shoppers, most of us have the habit of checking the expiration date on a food item. But does food that's past the expiration date mean that it's no longer good to eat and has to be thrown out?
Vendors are, of course, prohibited from selling expired food, even if the expiry date is only a best before suggestion. But now, food safety experts want to see more common sense used, pointing out that it may be best before, but it's still perfectly good after. Let's bust some expiry date myths in our Sunday special report.
像这个日本的这一个食品的话，那它这边有写2016 2月，所以这个应该日本的大部分都是赏味期限嘛。
This packet of cracker sticks is a year past the date on the packaging. But Ling Yung-chien, head of inspections at Taiwan's Consumers Foundation, who has for many years served to protect food safety in Taiwan, seems unruffled as he puts one in his mouth.
还不错啊，我觉得闻起来还不错。 没有那么脆，但是味道还可以。
It seems that how a food product has been kept has much more influence than its expiry date on whether it can still be eaten.
我们一般民众的理解里面，这个有效日期。
Most people's understanding of expiry dates is that once the date has passed, you can't eat it. It's bad. But what I would say is, even before it expires, you should trust the evidence of your senses over the expiry date.
The expert's advice on how to decide if food has gone bad is very simple. Give it a smell or a nibble and see what you think. Most foods can still be eaten after their expiry date if they've been stored in the right way.
有时候保存的时候，保存的过程当中。
Sometimes in the process of storage, like you put some milk in the fridge, forget about it, then you sniff it, and it doesn't smell unusual, so you just have some. We wouldn't be all that worried about that, because the likelihood of that causing you really obvious harm is not very high, because you already checked it yourself.
There's no necessary connection between the edibility of a product and how long it's been stored. Manufacturers add the expiry date to packaging to help consumers assess the likely quality of the product, and not necessarily its safety.
美国的话，它是既没有强制规定要标示有效日期或是赏味期限。
In the US, displaying an expiry date or a best before date is not mandatory because they think it should be independently managed by the manufacturer. But if it's going to be exported, then it has to comply with other countries' standards. So they write best before here, similar to the labels used in Japan.
But in Taiwanese law, the expiry date is synonymous with food safety, and it's illegal to sell goods after they've expired.
有效日期定在那一边，就是来显示说
The expiry date is on the product to tell you that it's safest to eat it before that date. After it expires, it might be unsafe, so that's why the law says you cannot sell a product after its expiry date has passed.
So if expiry dates are one of the key tools the government uses to ensure food safety, how exactly are these dates created? An endless stream of freshly fried chips falls onto a production line. In theory, Taiwan's food manufacturers should conduct validity period tests before their products go on the market. First, samples of the product are placed in these heated containers to speed up the aging process.
那它是45度的储存环境。
It stores the food at 45 degrees Celsius, so 1 week in here has a similar effect to 1 month at normal room temperature. We put the storage test sample in the 45-degree container, and every week we take it out and have it taste tested and evaluated.
The taste testers use their senses to assess the samples. After a few weeks, the product's taste will start to deteriorate. The expiry date is determined by converting those weeks in the hot box into normal months. But there's one more crucial step in the testing process. The inspectors smash the fried chips up and pour in a solvent to dissolve the oil inside the chips. Then they analyze exactly when the oil started to deteriorate.
在做储存时间之前，我们会定定
Before the storage test, we determine which elements in the product may deteriorate. For example, the water particles may change, it may get less crispy, the oil may start to taste rancid. Usually, if there are no problems over 12 months, we'll set the expiry date for 10 months.
Testing storage periods takes a lot of time and labour. Not every food company is able to build a lab, and the FDA doesn't require manufacturers to submit test data, so most companies take a shortcut.
Most companies extrapolate from their competitors, like, our new product is the same as theirs, so we'll copy their expiry date, but just shorten it a little to avoid any errors. But that means over time, all the expiry dates get shorter and shorter.
As expiry dates get shorter, more and more food is wasted while it's still edible. Some experts think regulations should be drawn up based on the specific qualities of different foodstuffs.
I
think the idea behind best before labels and expiry dates is a good one, but it shouldn't be executed in such a rigid way. If the issue isn't going to affect health, let the companies manage it independently. If it's going to affect the health of the public, then the government can manage it more strictly.
Around the world, 1.3 billion tons of food are wasted every year, enough to feed 2 billion people. One of the reasons for this wastage is that consumers blindly follow expiry dates. Just by changing our habits on this simple issue, we may be able to save a lot of good food from going to the dump.